Lead the way.
Well, welcome to the Raw podcast with Josh Merchant, Juan Merchant, father-son combo. And what a first session we have. Josh, you've done an amazing job setting this up, I must say.
Oh, it actually feels like a proper podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Say. You got some boom arms, we've got some things going on.
Got some shit happening, we've got some props, we've got a few things. So,
yeah, literally. Got some beer.
Yeah, that's it. And all of this is proudly supported and sponsored by Merchant Realty Group. All things real estate, buying, selling, log on.
Make sure you contact us. That's not at all a plug, but it is.
It is.
Right now.
It is. Okay, so let's get it out. Being the raw, we're talking raw material, raw, insightful,
Insightful. No, I understand what you're saying. We want to bring to the audience a very raw sort of podcast. This is, I guess, you look at the format, we want it to be very raw and transparent. And I think that's important. And you've seen a lot over your real estate journey. So have I. And I think that it's going to be something that we can pass on and share some funny stories. I know you've got some good ones that you've told me.
I have.
Which I'm really excited for everyone to hear, because I think we're going to have to change the names and the way it sounds and the properties. But for those who are watching and who are listening, we're going to play. The way we're going to run this format is we're going to watch a few videos and then we're going to lead into, so it could be a funny meme, could be something that's happening, whether it's in the property market, could just be on social media, something that we found amusing that maybe we can lead into and have a conversation about. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to play this funny video. I'll put it on, and then we can, I'm hoping this is the right one.
Still haven't sold that place, huh? That was a nasty murder.
Hope you like chili. Always got a pot on with sauerkraut.
I'm sure they got the smell out by now, though.
Don't worry, we only shoot our porn films on the weekends.
Yeah, I still haven't found that guy's head.
Got a series of underground tunnels that connect actually to your house, so we can have cool dinner parties.
Did he tell you about the great schools?
Boy, it's Dandelion City over here.
Every single house here recycles, you know? You only have one Earth.
Hope the searchlights don't bother you, because I got a lot of them.
We're starting a mommy and me program here across the street.
Hey, pregnant lady, you're pretty hot. If you need a doula, let me know.
I hope you like boxing, because I'm a pay-per-view fanatic.
Neutralize you.
Wow. I don't understand English.
Wow.
All right.
Wow. Well, we all have that one neighbour. In particular, I love that Step Brothers. That was one of my best. I love that is one of my funniest fave movies with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Yeah. So in your time, you've shared some funny stories. So and you hadn't seen that before, which is good.
I hadn't.
It's good. I mean, it's a different one they play on the actual
that must
Step
be the
Brothers.
R-rated one, because a lot of that stuff that's in there certainly isn't probably what society would say would be acceptable.
No.
But I can tell you now, from my experience, one of the funniest things that I've ever had happen was oh, by the way, we got international flight. We've got a guy
I can't believe
in.
we start the podcast and we hear this helicopter just flying very slowly. Like, it's not.
Yeah. Well, look, you know what? We've got our international next segment coming, so we're filming back to back. So he's just landing in the helipad. Don't worry, it's all good. But back to the neighbours. Back to the neighbours.
When they're selling, I want to know your best story.
Okay.
Or your funniest story. So say when you've gone and you're trying to sell a house.
Josh, let me take you to that story. I had in real estate, sometimes when people are selling, they may have been friends, as we know, with their neighbours, and for whatever reason, they're no longer neighbours. I had this particular property once. It was in Mount Eliza, and the names of the streets will be,
we
stopped.
Can't say,
but let's just say it was in Rendlesham Ave.
Love it, you actually said so.
Oh, there you go. But anyway, what ended up happening was I was selling a house for a client there, and he was very, very particular about a certain neighbour not coming in.
Okay.
He said, I do not want this person in my house at all.
Why is that? Was there?
I asked why. Being a younger sort of guy, I was probably, late. I was just in my early 30s, and he was very adamant, this guy. He was in his mid-40s. Anyway, did the open, and I had my PA down one end of the house, and it was a beautiful home. So you walked in, you had a nice master bedroom, formal lounge area as you walk through. It just opened up into a nice big entertaining kitchen. It just flowed, and then onto the pool. Where it was an amazing property. Anyway, as we're packing up, there was a gentleman that just walked in and goes, "Hey, how are you?" And as I sort of wandered down, I'd actually gone down to help my assistant, who at the time was packing up. Because as you do, when you've got your half-hour allotments, it's a bit like the Fast and the Furious. As you know, you're going from one open to the next, and the next you've got to pick boards up.
Speedy Gonzales.
Speedy Gonzales.
If you've got an open, you want to make sure that you packed up. You're on fire. It takes a while. It takes a while.
It takes
fast.
So I've gone down to help. As I'm walking down, this guy just jumps out, and I could hear the door open, and I said, "Hi, sir, how are you?" He goes, "Yeah, no worries. I'm just going to have a look through the house." And I said, "Yep, I'll be up there in a tick." And he goes, "Look, I've just got to quickly use the toilet." And anyway, not thinking of it, he's used the toilet. I reckon, Josh, it was 30 seconds flat. That's all he had. And as he came out, I said, "Sir, I just want to grab your details." He said, "Look, I've just realised they're in my car. I'm just going to go get them." And anyway, he gets in the car and just drives off. I found it very odd. I was like, "What the hell?" Like, walked into the master bedroom, everything was fine, nothing taken. And we always very, very assurance, for the client that we're going to be there on the door, like a security guard.
You're going to be like a security guard. You get, exactly.
Yeah, we're doing the right thing. So anyway, we've packed up, hopped in the car. I'm driving to my next open, which is 5 minutes down the road. I've given the owner a call and said, "Hey, just to let you know, Jeff, we'll just call him Jeff. Hey, Jeff, just to let you know the open's done." Had quite a few groups go through, which was great, good interest. Hey, I had a guy come in very last minute, and he said, "What do you look like?" I said, "Oh, a little guy, black hair, had really big sideburns." And he goes, "That motherfucker." I said, "What's that, Jeff?" And he goes, "That motherfucker. Look, I'm going home. I've just got to go there." Anyway, I'm at the open for inspection. I'm about to call an auction. So as I'm about to go out to do the auction, I'm having a chat to my owners. I feel my phone. It's buzzing. It's vibrating in my pocket because I've got to put it on silent.
Yep.
Going out to call an auction, you don't want to be all mic'd up.
You can't be distracted. Yeah,
correct. Yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking, geez, is this a
keen buyer trying to get a bid on this auction?
Well, that would be good. But anyway, I've looked at it, and there it is. It's the owner. It's Jeff, and I just sent it straight to voicemail. He called me 3 times repeatedly. So while I'm about 5 minutes out to go into this auction, I've had to say to the owners, "Look, can I just 2 seconds? I just got to take this urgent call. It'll be one moment." Walked out. "Jeff, what's up?" He goes, "That dirty bastard. He fucking did a reverse kanga." And I said, "Well, reverse kanga? What do you mean, mate? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm half Spanish. I am half Aussie, but what's a reverse kanga? I've never heard of a reverse kanga." This guy, so if you can imagine, when you sit on the toilet, you sit down that way.
Well, yeah, you normally backs to the
you're back to the cistern.
Yeah,
you got
not back to the toilet bowl, but you know.
You got the cistern, and you're front here. What a reverse is. He's gone this way. And laid cable.
So he's holding on to where you'd normally press
onto the list. So he'd laid a reverse kangaroo, like the shape of a tail. He'd done a big poo. So the guy that walked in, his neighbour that he had troubles with, did a reverse kangaroo in his ensuite. And what was surprising, there was no dunny. What I was thinking, I asked the guy, "Was there any toilet paper in the bowl?" And he goes, "No." So not only did he hang a big shit in his neighbour that he didn't like, he didn't wipe. So those dangleberries would be hanging pretty well. But anyway, that just shows you, that's one little story that's come about. But look, we all have those neighbours. I mean, that's one of the things we ask guys, if you have a neighbour that, could be a partier, a rager, you don't want to be doing, if they're getting up at 12, 1 o'clock, they're going to have the music going at 2, 3 in the afternoon, friends over, barbecue going, it's crazy. You don't want to be selling a home, just like that guy, that scene. "Hey, how you going? How would you like your Frankfurts?" Because I can tell you now, that can be the difference between you getting an offer or not.
Well, yeah, to put that in perspective, that scene is out of Step Brothers. That is when they're trying to sell the house and his brother is trying to sell it, and he does clearly not want them to sell. So that is moral of the story, that the reason we're bringing that up is just because you do have some neighbours that can make the sale a bit harder. And especially when buyers are going and doing drive-bys as well. You know, they do drive by at times where
we've had in my experience, I've had people, deliberately, and I think it was only a couple of months ago, there was on a current affair, there was a gentleman who was going to try and sell his house, and because the next door neighbour wanted to put plans and permits in, and the neighbour beside him had knocked them back and said no, so he had to go to VCAT. So instead of getting 3 units, got 2. Well, the people knew that they were now going to have units being built next door. They decided to put their home on the market. Well, what this guy did, who requested 3 units, only got 2 on there. Every time there was an open for inspection, he was out the front, charging his car up, revving it to the max. Back fence abutted his shed and had the music going full blast, pumping. So for those people who were prospective buyers,
well, it puts them off instantly. They know that the neighbour's going to be a pain in the butt. Yeah. And let's be real, if you're going to move into it for a lifestyle standpoint, or even renting it out, people don't want to live somewhere where you've got a nutcase. Yeah,
you're going to have a nutcase or and that's
why someone who does a reverse kangaroo
that was a little bit different.
What he must have done.
He timed it beautifully because he knew as soon as I turned my back, window. Walking down through the hallway, down into the kitchen, so it was a sunken, a couple of steps in. As soon as I got to that area, I turned around and he'd already opened the door and gone straight in. So he clearly had he had a motive. He had a motive.
He knew what he was up to.
He was doing that deliberately to get back into his mate or his old mate. But look, that's why sometimes when we sell homes, I'll generally ask the question, look, would you like an auction or big signboard? There are some people that will say, look, no. I've had people that have said, look, I don't want to put a signboard. I don't want it going on the internet. I just want it sold privately with no fuss.
What's that?
Well, either they've got a friend or a family. In one case, I had a situation where there was a husband, even though he wanted to sell and he divorced his wife, she was after maintenance, and he had a business. He didn't want her to know that he was selling, even though she lived around the corner and drove past. Did not want them to know that it was.
That's fair enough. So, not everyone.
So there are some private situations you can understand. Look, some neighbours, the majority of the time, when you know what you're playing with, and that's where it's really important from a client's point of view. Like when I mean client, when a seller's selling, I'll ask the question: is there any time or a specific time you would request to go to market? Like a good time, like I know north facing, you're going to get that nice sun on your pool. But where's a good time? It could be a neighbour or young guys coming home. They park out. There's 6-7 cars at the front.
Yeah,
that's not a good look for a prospective buyer because automatically they're going to go, are we living next to a party house? So these are the little things, the intricate things.
What brings in another? Remember when the Zac Efron Bad Neighbours? Is that the one? Yeah, when they're trying to sell and they've got the frat house next door. That says it all. You don't want to be anyone who is selling. Like the reason of this podcast is to do a bit of storytelling mixed with more or less advice,
experience and so forth.
Yeah, which is going to be good. So I think that it's important that your neighbours are not necessarily on board with you selling, but at least not going in and doing a reverse kangaroo in the toilet.
There's numerous stories that we could talk about. I call it sabotaging a sale, and that could be actually a real good topic we could talk about, sabotaging a sale. And this is probably that in essence.
Well, it is. Like you see that a lot of people...
The reverse kangaroo, I would have thought if you had to come in first and left the seat up, that would have been sabotaging the sale. I have seen firsthand tenants literally sabotage a sale. So the landlord goes to sell. It's always a difficult situation. You got a tenant that's just moved in or been there forever and a day.
That's hard. That is, and I can understand maybe that one. Maybe not necessarily the tenant being a pain. Because there's so many, generally speaking, there are so many tenants that are so lovely. They clean up. They even present it for you really, really well. And
then you've got the 10%. And the 10%, and depending on the area, I would say there's a certain area that I would say 70% do not have the hygiene that would normally be the case.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you go to sell their home, would you like a drink out of a coffee or a cup? No thanks, because I don't know if I'm going to come out alive.
You don't know if this has been washed in.
Well, let me tell you, you go past a bathtub and there's a floating polywaffle sitting on the. That just goes to show like the hygiene of some people. They'll say we've cleaned up, we've got it looking spotless, and I can tell you now it isn't spotless. Buyers walk in.
Well, maybe they've just never seen what clean is.
Well, I reckon that's probably the case. The thing is everyone's expectations.
It's very different. It varies.
Different.
But I do understand when someone goes, you walk into, it's funny, we walk into so many appraisals and they go, oh, we haven't cleaned up. The house is spotless.
Yeah.
The house is immaculate. There's not.
You can eat off the floor.
There's like a book in the wrong place. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only part or like a blanket that's just been used. Like the throw's been actually used for once, and it's like, that's there. And then you walk into some other ones, and you're all going, oh.
Yeah, and they're the ones they'll be the ones who will say, we've gone to a great length to get this place looking as tidy as it looks. And when you walk in, you could literally go like that, and you've got a whole pile of dust.
Yeah,
it hasn't been cleaned. So
that's kind of, we work the Frankston South and the Frankston market. So we work, Frankston's a 50-50 owner occupied and investor market.
Yep.
Frankston South is a 8 in 10 properties are owner occupied. So we see the best of both worlds.
And look, you know what? Majority of the time we have great presentation teams. So when we're talking, as you know, it's all about first impressions. You only get one first impression.
Yeah.
If you don't get that right from day one, as we know, Josh, and we tell our clients, it's going to really hamper the sale.
It's going to sabotage it. At the end of the day, when you've got a buyer walking through, you want to make sure that they're impressed. You want to make sure they're not going to negotiate on anything to do with any sort of presentation or the actual house itself.
Yep.
And it's just appearance is good. And at the end of the day, some people will go to that next level and invest the time and the money into doing so. But it's completely up to the individual as to what they want to see on the other side. So, but it is important.
It is.
And that is a funny story.
Well, there you
Reverse
go.
Kanga. All right, we'll jump into the next one.
The next video.
Which hopefully, that one was pretty good.
I have not seen that cut from Step Brothers.
You said the normal one is pretty tamed.
Yeah, it's very
They tame it down and they really toned it down. That was a bit, it goes another
pretty
level.
full on, but...
all right, here we go.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Okay, guys. So for people who are watching and people who aren't, it's this guy. What's his name? He's like.
Well, you're going to put this up, aren't you?
Yeah. So this is going to but if you're not watching, if you're listening on what's the name, whatever Spotify, whatever this goes on, you won't see it. But basically, this guy walks into this.
What's his name? Pesci.
I don't know his actual name. Anyway, he walks in. He's got his sunnies on, and he sees this absolutely horrible property, and it's basically saying what you can afford with where the interest rates are at. And now this is a US video, so they're saying it's at 8%. Now, obviously, interest rates have gone up, and it is funny. You do notice we talk a big thing about
Joe Pesci. That's
Joe Pesci.
It's
yes.
Joe Pesci. I think it's Godfather. He walks in and he said, "What is this shit?" But it is true, Josh.
You can we're sending out. At the moment in our sales guide with the difference in what the RBA, what you can borrow.
Well, we've certainly the cash rate got up by 4 points to 4.1. Interest rates now are 6%. So if you rewind a year ago, you could get a fixed interest rate and it's 3.5%, which is great. You go to get a fixed interest rate right now, it's double. So what owners are failing to understand it at sometimes, and that's why sometimes it's just best to sort of say to them, look, rather be honest with you, this is what's going on.
Keep talking. I'm going to look up if interest rates went up.
No, they didn't. I actually saw it. They actually held it.
They didn't?
Yeah, they held it. But it's 11-year high we're at the moment with the cash rate. But one thing that the cash rate hasn't gone up, but it doesn't mean that banks aren't putting it up.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realise that. So like I spoke to a guy from the other day, I won't mention his bank, I think it was the ANZ. He got a
In
statement.
one sentence, I won't mention his bank.
But let me
the
tell
next
you,
sentence,
let me tell you,
ANZ.
He had a statement there and it says, based on based on the interest, the cash rate, you're going to have a break, which is nice, and then the next 2 months it was going to slightly go up. And he couldn't understand. He was like, I thought that the interest rates were on hold. Why are we going up? At the end of the day, the banks are the ones holding the levers, and they're the ones lending you the money. So what we are seeing at the moment is a bit of serviceability. Cost of living's gone through the roof. So we're seeing that
the buyer pool has definitely shrunk. I was speaking with a gentleman today. I mean, we have a lot of phone conversations with a lot of clients, a lot of owners, and actually people who aren't necessarily tracking the market think it's still good. Now, relatively, you could look at it one of two ways. COVID brought, to Frankston South, close to almost 40% of increase in the median house price. Yeah. And then you look at that and you're like, okay, well, now it's come down 9%. And you look at that and you're like, well, in the scheme of things, but I only think you're still positive, but the buyer pool is so much smaller.
The buyer pool has shrunk.
Yeah.
The sellers are going to have, like right now, sellers are in competition with more people. So, there's always that old adage, I want to sell in spring when my house looks great. Well, your house won't just look great. So
multiple houses will look great.
So,
especially when the buyer pool's pretty small and they've got too much choice.
They're going to have more choice. So right now we can see it as a buyer's market. We've seen it on the national clock for, in terms of where the cycle is. And
in terms of where Melbourne is compared to...
where it is. But that's another subject.
Which if you do want to reach out and understand where that is at,
we can provide you
with a snapshot of where Melbourne sits nationally compared to the whole of Australia.
Whether we're in the peak or in the bottom of the market.
Yeah.
It's funny, people tend to say, oh yeah, that house down the road just sold. It sold for, say 1.8. And when we go out, as you know, when we're doing CMAs, you go off...
What's a CMA? For anyone I know a lot of people are going to know what a CMA is, but like say
it's a comparable market analysis. So that is the recent sales in your area in the last 6 months, which is reflective. So it's prehistoric data, which is how we get our numbers from. So from a statistic point of view, it's really important to know those things. So if you're not knowing, but it's funny, we'll go in with a CMA and they'll say, oh, the house down the road, that sold, you got a great result for that. And I'm like, that sold in March 2022. A year and a half ago, and they go, well, we think our house is worth just as much as that, and you're like, oh shit.
Well, it's not factoring in any of the market trends. A year and a half ago, the buyer pool was very different. You would open up a house, and how many people would you have come through on average?
We averaged in the peak times, which we've done numbers on. We averaged just over a dozen buyers. At some stage, we were getting record numbers like 50, 60, 70 groups coming through. So you had 100, 150 people. There was a big reason why that was. When COVID hit, a lot of the inner city wanted to move down near the beach.
They wanted the peninsula. And they wanted the lifestyle.
They wanted lifestyle. They also wanted a bit more land. So where they were, they might have had a single-fronted terrace, looking beautiful home, selling it for 1.8, 2 million. But then they'd come down here and they could buy a house that was, 1.6, 1.7 with a pool, tennis court, all the rest. And what happened, there was...
And much bigger land size. Like instead of having your 300, 400 not even, you're having maybe 1,000 to 2,000.
Yeah, easy.
At the peak.
We were getting, people buying 2,500 square metres of land. What we are now seeing is that it happens quite often when the seasons, when it's a drought versus a flood, when there's an El Nino, when the gardens always look good when it's wet, and then when it gets really, really dry, you'll find a lot of landowners want to get rid of it because it doesn't look that pretty. The grass isn't green, it's yellow.
That's true.
So we see a bit of season. So what we saw with COVID, as the buyers flocked to work from home, all these businesses in the city have said, hey, we're stopping that. We can have a hybrid look. You can work 1 or 2 days 3 days we weren't in the office. Now they're pushing.
Well, I
back.
don't think that's very much a thing at the minute. Like, I don't speak to a lot of people that work from home at the minute.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most of them are all
some
heading
people
back.
do.
Yeah.
But I think if you can have a hybrid. I think you're right. You can do 1 to 2 days. But I think it's important, like, to connect. I think we lost 3 years of our lives where we didn't even.
What a fucking shit truck of a show that was.
Yeah, that was.
We won't go down that. That's another.
That's a whole another. But that is a conversation we will have at another time. We've got how many? We can do as many episodes as we really feel like it.
Let me tell you, look, I'm.
Hopefully, people still watch.
Yeah, maybe they won't. But look, we're talking real estate and how the effects and the levers that will come into play. We believe the market is the market. So you'll no matter what
what do you think? Sorry to cut you short. Yeah. What do you think the market's doing right now? I know a lot of people out there would, if we can. The reason sort of for this podcast is we talk every single day. We're in someone's living room telling them what the market's doing. We would rather just bring that information to this podcast and to our social media following and our database. What do you reckon? Give me your next 6 months of prediction. Because I know it's hard. Everyone,
it's hard. I'm happy to.
COVID has threw a spanner in the works.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it made it very volatile.
It was very volatile. Look, pardon me. I would say the next 6 months we're going to see some good results still happen. Yep. The top end of the market's still going to go along nicely. Anything that's been renovated or brand new or relatively new, those sort of homes are going without any fuss.
Yeah.
Because they're being priced correctly and they're selling within a good time frame. And a good time frame in today's market is between that 3 to 4 week period.
Yeah.
What we are seeing is days on market stretching right out, which is a key indicator to say that it is becoming a buyer's market. So some owners,
definitely was. It definitely is.
Some owners are up here and they're slightly below, slightly higher than where it should be, and we're seeing that. So
it's almost double from what it was a year and a half ago when.
Doubled
as in double days on market.
Yeah, it has.
Like it's now out to what is it, median in Melbourne, I think 30, 31?
Just down the road, Seaford used to be like 3 weeks on market. Now it's blown out to nearly 7.
Well, I know Frankston went down to 14 at the peak when the market was just booming and things were just flying out the door. People would just, as soon as you wouldn't even open the property. You would do a Zoom.
I was doing
Zooms.
I was auctioning properties in a boardroom.
I'm just going to double check that
people were just ticking, like we had all these new technology. The great thing about what COVID's brought to real estate agents, and let it be known, like having done it for 23, 24 years, we've seen how the real estate world or the internet has really taken real estate to a different level. So we actually were fortunate enough that we were a little bit bulletproof in that COVID period where some people couldn't work. We were still able to sell. We had to pivot. There were some really good companies that were tech orientated, and they came out and gave.
There's always in any downfall. There's always an opportunity to capitalise. I think you would have seen. Like I remember, you used to go whenever you were selling a house. You'd have to go get one contract signed, go back to the owner. They would say, "No, we want this one. We want this much." You'd have to countersign, go back, drive back to the buyer's house, get that's all signed off, and you wouldn't be back till 8 to 10 o'clock. There was majority of nights, but
now it's all, you can do it on the, you don't have to have your laptop. You can do it all on your phone.
Which is crazy, but then it can sometimes, then like we say, it's all about connecting with people. And that's the main thing right now is it's pretty hard when you send a little authority off or you send a contract off and it doesn't feel as real as it probably would.
I would say that the connectivity is still there. It's still very
definitely
valid. People will buy off people. People sell with people that they trust.
Yes.
And no matter what you can offer, it's about how can you fit into and help them get where they need to be. So, but getting back to that forecast of what the next 6 months looks like, I think, it's going to be a real bumper spring. That's my opinion. I think there's going to be a lot of auctions. I know being.
Do you reckon the market will go up, or do you reckon it will go down?
I think it will stay. I think it will plateau. I don't think we'll see. The good thing is they anticipated one more interest rate rise, and then to keep it at bay. If the cash
they won't,
rate,
do you reckon they'll put another one on?
Look, ideally, what would be great to stimulate the market, because as we know,
Whenever they don't raise them, I feel like there's a bit of confidence that comes back with buyers. You see more, the phones ring a little bit more.
Yeah. But as you know, we have properties that are stunning.
Yeah.
If they're not priced right or the buyers don't see value in it, the phones don't ring. No matter how good a home can be.
You could have the best home in the entire...
You could have the best, 100%. So it all comes back to right now, what does a buyer see value at?
Yeah.
Because 12 months ago, they were looking at a different lens. There was a fear of missing out. There's still a fear of missing out on... There's still properties out there that will have multiple people...
We had almost 40 people come through a property just on the weekend, just for one inspection.
Yep.
You know, we're having a lot of people.
Lots of people.
And I say people, 21 groups. You know, that's 40 people. Well, probably a little bit more because we had a few kids in that there. But you look at that, there's still a lot of people out looking for property. It just depends. What are you laughing at?
Oh, that was the first, actually, where we had...
Yeah, no, it was actually good. But you do see, like, if you're not where the market is, the only way as a real estate agent, and it's really evidential when you're when your property is cooking with gas, and what I mean by that is when you've got buyers coming through your open home requesting the Section 32 or calling in to want to see your property, that's when you know you've priced it correctly. Outside of that, if you're not, then there's something going... There's either too much on the market that's better than yours and that's more attractive.
I always get back to one of my mentors that taught me many, many years ago, 22, 23 years ago. And I've been to many seminars, but they talk about the 4 Ps. And that's the position of the property, where it sits, as in location, the promotion, how it's being advertised, the presentation, which generally speaking, all the owners have a big say in that. The biggest thing they have a say in is the last, but the most critical, and that's price. And what I mean by price is their advertised price, where they are allowing the market to take it and run with it. So when the owners are being a bit greedy and they want a little bit more, then from an advertised point of view, we have to advertise where the owners want it. And in a market like we are now, there's great representation of value across the board. So we are now seeing buyers cross-sell. So what I mean by that is, last year they could only buy in Frankston South. Now this buyer can now go on Mount Eliza.
Yeah.
And they can push down to Mount Martha. They can do all these things because the prices and the heat in the market isn't there, especially that sort of under that 2 mil, if that makes sense. So above that sort of market, I think there's no doubt in my mind, anything that's finished, renovated, they're going. We've got buyers that are buying 2.6, 3 mil. We've had clients that we've come across that have sold in Flinders, that we've spoken to, and look, they're selling for just under 7 mil. So
well, that's what we are noticing. A lot of people who are moving in this market and buying in this market are often selling. They're sellers. A lot of and that might be because our market that we target are probably second, third time buyers, the properties, the sort of properties we sell. But you're right. Like, I'm definitely seeing that there is a transition.
And you have to play it smart. So for an owner, if you say to them, hey, look, I can guarantee, and the thing is this, there's a lot of agents that will give a price, and there's 2 ways to look at it. They can say, look, psychologically, we'll put a higher price on it. So if the buyer comes in and pays,
they feel like they get a bit of a win. Is that what you mean?
It's but then you 400,000.
But then you limit, and that's like, we have examples where we have properties that we've priced high, and because the owners wanted to go there, and then it's sold lower than what. And
it's funny. We had one situation.
We very rarely. Your biggest attribute is auction.
In my 23 years, I'd say the first 4 years was reasonably a bit like that, because I was quite green. You take on listings, and that's generally the case. You might just take on a listing and say, yeah, look, I'll get that. And it's easy as a young agent to say, hey, I got it wrong. I got the price wrong. I was a little bit hyper. I sort of, I'm sorry. You can get away with that in certain pockets of areas, because that buyer might sell, so that person might sell, but never buy back in that suburb. We work in an area that we see so many people.
Well, yeah, so we're locals in that market too. We want to make sure that we can walk around, and we see clients. You go to the cafe and every single Tom, Dick and Harry.
So it's about making sure you give the right advice.
Yeah.
Has that been costly to me? Oh, definitely. Like
you lose a lot of listings.
I lose a lot of listings, and it's
and we do. Like if we go in and we're realistic, we would rather tell someone the absolute truth and what they need to hear versus what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you have an agent, they might come on, they might potentially pay for your marketing up front. You might have to pay when it sells, but then they might price it really high. And it is a common industry problem that we do see.
We do, yeah.
And it's like at the end of the day, you've got one of two options. Would you rather have 100 people walk through your door on the first open and move the price range up?
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily, it is important where you start, but it's not as important as where you finish.
Well, as we know, it's where you finish. And look, I had a client today, congratulated him. I had a surgery procedure probably 6 months back. And he was wanting me to sell his home, and I couldn't get out because I was recovering, etc. And as such, he listed it with another agent. Now, the price that I'd been giving him, health checks on his property, having had that he bought it from me many years ago.
What's a health check? Is that like a price check?
Like a price check. Every
You're like, hey, here's your health check. We do price checks. This is the first time I've heard this health check.
Well,
this sounds like a nice.
Just to say, hey,
sounds good.
This is what's going on.
Anyone want a health check? Reach out.
And look, the good thing is, unfortunately, he went with another agent. I didn't get the opportunity to pitch. However, the way I look at it is, it's one of those things that you...
Did he sell it well? That's
No, he didn't. He didn't. So what I'm saying is, I said to him all along...
You got led down the garden path?
1.7, and he got told, advertise at 1.9 to 2 mil, and the agent was out of area, had no idea. And I'm talking, if you go with an agent that's 3 or 4 or 5 suburbs away from where you can go. We're in Frankston South. We can push into Mount Eliza. We can go to Langwarrin. We can go to Seaford, and so forth. You go a little bit.
You
further.
don't really. We don't really want to operate any further because, one, it means that if you want us to come out nice and short and sharp, that's a bit of a drive for us. Yeah. We want to actually get out there. But don't get me wrong.
Look,
you are an agent who
I can facilitate. However, I'll only work with the clients that I know that are going to work with me. And there's no
who
point,
trust you, who trust
me.
in
There's no
your
point
ability.
Me going out to a property when, like, we auctioned one for a good client of mine. I've sold many for the family.
Yeah, we saw one out in Carrum, and that was an absolute.
And that was an absolute.
But this is
of an auction. We got 170,000 or 20% above the where the market was. So for us, that was critical because I was never going to say, look, could I have handballed it? Yes, but we had the buyers that we knew, and I knew that by auctioning it,
you knew. Well, not only that, you knew how to sell. Like we know, like Juan's been in it 23 years. I've been in it for 8 years. We know how to market and promote your property and get the best result. And in terms of sales strategy, I mean, you've been doing auctions your entire life, and you blow them out of the park, even in a crappy market.
I've been managing the listing campaigns, yes, of an auction because they tend to bring more people to the property, and it's the best form, especially when the market is, whether it's coming down or whether it's going up. When it starts to bounce back, auctions are absolutely the best time. A lot of agencies, they will stop calling auctions now because the auctioneer doesn't want to have a strike rate. So you'll hear constantly,
very true. Well, clearance rates are important.
Clearance rates are important. So
good reflector of the market.
They don't want to put their name to a property that's overpriced. And if they go to auction and they have nothing to work with, they actually look quite silly. But I got taught very early on. So I've been listing auctions under my own belt for over 20 years. So way before auctions have become popular over the last 5 to 7 years, I've been calling for the last 13. And that in itself is, that's a story I'll go down another day. But I look at
There's a lot of stories.
There's lots of stories. But auctions are the best form and method, the oldest method of sale.
Well, and it's a lot of, you know what's funny? A lot of people actually go, I wouldn't want to buy at an auction, or I don't want to, I'm too nervous. I think I'll organically say this, it is the best, most transparent way of buying something because you can see where your competition is at. Private sale, expressions of interest, sale by set date, however you want to shape them, you don't know if they're real. You can, at least at an auction, you can see your other bidder is there and he's genuinely, or she is genuinely...
You can see your competition. And even in saying that, like some of my best results have been where I may have had one person in the crowd. So it's me as the auctioneer and the owner versus the buyer. And it's strategically placing the property in, passing it in, and then strongly negotiating afterwards where you get an unconditional sale. In this market right now where we're seeing a lot of building inspectors and pest inspectors over glossing the building report so that buyers...
and that does happen.
And that happens, but it's becoming more and more happening now.
It's a common theme.
Where the building inspector will say, look, I think you need to... you could possibly renegotiate. And if you're doing that, that actually ends... That doesn't leave a good taste in the owner's mouth.
No.
But with finance in particular, because the interest rates are high, serviceability, but also how much someone can borrow. This time last year, a buyer could borrow $1 million because the cash rate was quite down. So
you're at 0.1%. Your interest rate was 2.1.
Your interest rate was 2.1. Now you go to borrow, well, your interest rate's 6%. You could borrow $1 million. That's now coming down to sort of just over $500,000. So when the banks are doing that, and also the other thing that people don't realise is the banks are valuing properties a hell of a lot less.
A lot less. We're seeing that on our systems. We get to see what they use, and at the end of the day, they're definitely taking a lot off the values, saying that it's becoming... and they're far more conservative, and they have to be.
So that reminds me, I've spoken to a few clients. When you look at all these apps, you can go on now. So I go into a lot of homes, and the biggest thing that what you pay both Josh and I and any real estate agent for that matter is they're there to market your property the best way they can and then negotiate. So when they connect, they can close and they can.
And if they're a very good agent, they're going to extract the best price out of every single buyer.
They're going to go through.
The issue is if you're not unconditional, that big price that you've just secured and it's subject to finance and the bank has to come through and have a look, they will just go, wait a second. And if that, unless that buyer's cashed up and ready to go, which more like we are seeing in today's market, but depending on the property, it's very dependent.
It's funny. I go out to so many homes and the first thing I'll ask, even when I'm just prior to getting out there, I'll generally ask, do you have an idea of what you think your property's worth? And they'll say, no, that's why I've got you out. And with all the apps that
I was going to say, there's real estimate, realestate.com, you literally don't have to be...
You can go now, realestate.com can give you a price estimate, doesn't take into consideration, it could go off the last, so it doesn't know that you've done a drop the pull in, 150,000, you've done this, done that, right? But the owners will always have a figure of where they see it. Very rarely do you find someone that says, I don't know, right? And that's where I generally will say, look, I know where your property sits, but in my opinion, I think I can get maybe more, could be 5, 10, could be 20% if you let me handle your sale the way it should be handled. Now, there's two ways. We can either overprice it or get it to where the market is.
Yeah, and become the most attractive in the market.
You become, so if you're looking at a 2/3 of an acre property and you type in Frankston South, and you've got a tennis court, pool, 4 beds, 2 baths, and you're fully renovated, and you look out there and the majority of the homes are sitting between 1.8 and 2, and you put it on for 2.2.
Dream.
You dream. So,
but if you put it on for, if you're
175 to 185,
even
you know that you're going to sell for 185, but you're going to get every man his dog, and by doing that, you're going to get great synergy, great energy, and the buyers will get that fear of missing out. And
that's what we do. We work and we make sure that when we're showcasing your home, it becomes a bit more of an event, and that's what you want to do when you're first open is very important. Yeah. But I think we've got to wrap this one
for
up.
sure.
I think, and I know we could talk about this all day, and we will continue. If there's any questions or any comments, please put them in the...
I'm not going to look at them, but anyway.
I'll look at them.
Yeah,
but it'll be
to me, I think we just got to be real. We've got to be raw.
I think the key touch on one more thing, though.
The key is, when selling real estate, give your trust. And at the end of the day, you're the hero. You'll either make the property sell for a huge price, or you'll be the villain. So you could either be Batman, be the hero, or you could be the Joker.
But it's hard. I get it. It is hard in a market where there's a lot of sales agents out there, and it's hard to know which one's the best. How do you know which one's the most trustworthy? How do you know who's got the
reputation, reputable?
I guess you look at testimonials. That's probably a good thing.
Experience.
Yep.
I think, look,
years in the game is important.
I would say this: there's some really good young agents that come on, and they're like Haley's comments. They fly and then they just fizzle out because they've been over-promising and under-delivering. Then there's some that just will continue to grow and grow, and because they've got a great team around them. So I think it's really important to know what you're getting. So, Josh, we'll wrap that up.
All right. I want to know, what was your win for last week? Did you have a win?
My win?
What was your win? I know that's throwing a curveball at you.
Jeez, you've thrown a curveball.
I don't even know what my win would be.
Win. Well,
You know what, actually? What was my win last week? You know what? Probably we've updated our pre-listing kit.
Yep.
Which is absolutely going to be amazing for property owners out there. Yep. And I think that it's very important if they are looking to sell or anything.
Yep.
Please get in contact.
Awesome.
That was my win because we had.
I was very fortunate. I had a big win. I had Father's Day on Sunday. Had all the 4 kids. To all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. It was awesome.
Ex-golf. We went down and played indoor golf, even though it was an absolute cracking day on Sunday.
Probably should have been out on the course having a fun, but look, you know what,
we do enjoy a bit of golf.
But we do. Let's just say it was. It's all about making memories, and that's what it's about. So, awesome. Josh, great. First up,
I'm just going to play the outro music, guys. Don't mind me. Great first podcast. We literally, it's going to get better.
And if you like it, let us know. If you want more intel.
And if you hate it, well, we don't really care.
Well, guess what? We don't give a shit. You get fucked. No, I shouldn't say that, but.
Yep, there we go. There we go. This is the outro. I don't know if the music's good enough yet.
That sounds a bit like Stranger Things.
It sounds like a UFO. It sounds like, I don't know if it's like innovative, or if it's
cool.
It's a bit cool. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for
watching,
listening.
listening.
We'll see you on the next one.